drivers 100% are first. We don't have jobs if we don't have these drivers. We owe them everything.
Welcome to Drive, the podcast for truck drivers who are looking to enhance their lives both on and off the road, and for carriers who are looking for that perfect fit. I'm Chelsea Faulkner, and we're here to bring you conversations that will help to keep you moving forward in every area of your life. Whether you're a seasoned trucker or just starting off in the industry, this is a show for you. I'm Chelsea Faulkner, and today we're pulling back the curtain a little bit to spotlight one of our own. Erin Crawford is part of the team here at HandledNow, and she's someone who knows what it really takes to build strong relationships in the business, on the road, in the office, and everywhere in between. HandledNow is built on real connection, and Erin lives that out every day. Today, we're getting into her story, her approach, and the lessons that she's learned working behind the scenes to support drivers across the country. Erin, welcome in, and thank you so much for joining the podcast today. We are so excited to have you on and have you spotlighted.
I'm happy to be here.
So before we get crazy and into all of the meat and potatoes of this podcast episode, can you tell us a little bit about your journey, how it is that you got into the trucking industry, how long you've been in the industry, and just kind of what that journey looks like?
So I started actually as a recruiter about 15 years ago and just slowly kind of learned everything from the bottom up, had been familiar with in some other jobs before and kind of grew up in construction. So a little bit of familiarity there. But got into about 15 years ago, started off recruiting, got into working with clients and just kind of running teams across the country.
And so from recruiter to what you're doing now, how have you felt like that progression has went?
It's a really nice way to learn it because it'd be hard to come in not knowing what those recruiters are seeing and how they're talking to drivers and what the drivers are saying coming in. I really like to start from the ground up. Just it's the best way to learn. You kind of learn every level and just keep adding and learning more every day.
Absolutely. And I have this theory that people always end up in the trucking industry. Either you're born into it or you end up here totally by accident and then you just never leave. And it sounds like you kind of segued from the construction world straight into trucking. I mean, you've got your similarities there by all means. Can you tell me a little bit more about what that looked like growing up in the construction industry?
Dad's running an excavating company, and I was over there playing on the trailers and the 53-footers and the big tractors that got hauled around. And now it was kind of a transition to see him have to learn the medical cards because he was grandfathered into CDLs. So he didn't have to do all of that before. And that was something completely new he had to learn with getting them updated with the state, just stuff like that. It's been interesting to watch it grow.
You're obviously not out in the truck every day. You're not out there behind the wheel and on the road, but you're still deeply connected to the people that are. Can you tell me, why is it that you think that relationships are such a central part of trucking, even from your role on the inside?
Their livelihood is in our hands. There has to be a great amount of trust built from the beginning. They want to know that they're going to get paid. There's a lot of dishonesty with this industry, unfortunately, from what we hear day in and day out. So it's building that trust from the bottom, from the very first conversation you have with them, that you can trust me. You're going to have the truth from me. I'm not going to be, maybe not always have the best news for you, but you're going to get the truth from me one way or the other. And then they're put a positive spin on it. But I mean, that's going to be what puts the food on the tables for them and gets the bills paid. So their livelihood is in our hands, and you got to build that relationship and make it a strong one.
I know that you've had some relationships as far as friendships go and things like that with some of the truck drivers that have been in the industry that you've kind of met along the way. Can you tell me a bit about how those started and building that trust really led into those friendships?
It's just conversations, simple conversations. You have one of those days where they're on the road so long that they don't care if you're sitting there and typing away. They just need someone to ramble onto for, 15, 20 minutes. So sometimes you do the ahas and nod your head, but you really get to learn about them, and they think that you're ignoring them, but you're taking it in. So you end up finding the interest they have, and you have similar interests with them, and some people just stick with you. It's been fun. I love them all. So
For sure. And what a cool way to learn, to sit on the phone and just listen to them as they're driving and as they're going along their journey. And you're hearing all their struggles day in and day out as to what it is that they're seeing, what it is that they're doing, what their experiences are. And that really, I'm sure, especially coming from somebody that started in construction, came into trucking, that's had to have been an eye-opener for you as to what was going on the road with these truckers. Is there a specific moment throughout your career that's stuck with you where a connection really made the difference for a driver, for a client, or even for you?
I think it's the ones where drivers kind of maybe don't have the best looking work history, application, whatnot. But I mean, they've struggled to find work if they're in a remote area, seeing the gray area with them and not just black and white, and being able to find something that's going to work for them. And when you hear from them years later, that's their career. Now they've stayed with that company. One in particular, there was when I first started, he came on as a driver. He was a, harder sell to people. And then 12 years later, I was back with that client and he was their lead driver doing all the training. And sometimes they just need that extra chance.
For sure. And what a success story, too. I mean, digging in deep with those drivers, getting into what it is that they need, what it is that they're expecting out of a future employer, and what it is that's going to meet their expectations. And then watching them grow throughout that has to be something that resonates with you deeply.
Yes. Especially when you get someone that's just got enough experience. They're coming off the road. They've done their time on the road. It's so great to have them get that opportunity to be home with their families and take care of things and build their career and start getting in there.
Now, Erin, you're often the first point of contact for drivers whenever they're stepping into this world, which obviously, like we've talked about, it means building that trust really fast and then keeping it. How do you approach building that trust just straight out the gate from that first conversation that you have when you first pick up the phone and they pick up and you're really just starting to get to know them?
Again, just be honest. Do what you say you're going to do. If you say you're going to call them back, call them back. And it's going to be a little delayed, even just shoot them a message. Hey, I'm tied up. I'll get back. If you say you're going to follow up on an email, follow up with a client, help them with their pay, walk them through something. Make the time and do it, both with clients and drivers. Do what you say you're going to do. It's easy.
And I know you're working with drivers all the way across the United States. So obviously, you're not always in the same location that they are. How do you really help to build and to keep those relationships going strong, even when you're not in the same place as those drivers, or when you're not in the same place as those clients, or you're not talking every day?
You've got to make check-ins a priority, whether it be a quick little message. Make a calendar for birthdays and shoot them a birthday text, anniversary text if they mention that they've got, they're expecting grandbabies, anything. And just touch base saying, hey, you're not just a number, you're a person. Happy birthday. That's some of the biggest complaints I hear, is that they're just another number on the road. So they don't feel like a person again.
And with that lack of connectivity whenever they're out on the road and how lonely it can get, I'm sure that can make a world of difference.
It has, for sure.
Any specific things that you personally have done or that you've seen work outside of your calendar that have really helped to build those stronger ties between drivers and the HandledNow team, or any teams that you've worked with in the past?
I actually used to do a newsletter that was monthly, and that celebrated everyone's birthdays across the company, or if someone got driver of the month or recognition. And they really liked it because then there was people seeing, and then I would send it to the client if their driver was on there. But it was just try to be memorable. Open lines of communications with the drivers. Just can't say that enough. Open and honest communication. That's basically all you need.
HandledNow is a company that puts people first. And that means helping those drivers to grow, not just to find a job. So let's talk about what that really looks like. So as far as helping drivers to advance in their career, how is it that they can lean on their network without feeling like they're asking for favors?
Starts again with open, honest communication. If you have those people with the gray areas and, they're not the best work history and they want to move around and keep doing things, you've got to educate them on, look, you've got to wait till this ticket comes off, or stick this position out just for a little bit. Let me work for you and show you that once we've built that trust and relationship up, then it's easy to sell you to someone else. Look, they've been doing this for a while, but that ended. So now they're looking again. It's not like you're leaving. If they need to get an endorsement, just keep it open and just let them know that if we can help with anything. Since I've been with HandledNow, it's the exact same thing. Drivers 100% are first. I mean, we don't have jobs if we don't have these drivers. So we owe them everything, and just always be there for them. Just keep it open.
And it sounds like what I'm hearing you say is that it's not just that trust. It's also that clear, concise communication, that transparency that comes with it. And that's something that has to really make the difference with drivers, especially in a world where everything's being sugar-coated for them, or it's kind of being swept under the rug, because obviously in this kind of market right now, people want to hang on to those good drivers. They want to make sure that they're getting their foot in the door for their company. So they'll sugarcoat things and make it seem better than it is when it's really not.
Exactly. And I tell them going in, I will not always have the best thing to tell you, but you'll have the truth from me. And that's all I can do.
Makes a huge difference. So, Erin, what would you say to someone who struggles to ask for help or just doesn't feel connected enough in order to reach out?
Those can be tough sometimes. It's just doing a few check-ins here and there. There has to be a connection. There's something they've probably, like you said, had sugar-coated, or just they haven't built trust with anyone. So just a constant check-in and let them know that you care and you aren't just thumbing through the paper and taking the numbers down, that you want to help them. So just remembering the little things. And once you find it, sometimes it takes longer to find that connection, because some people are just quiet and they want to be left alone and they don't want people bombarding them all the time. And once you learn that with them, then, the once a month check-in is okay, because that's all they need. But as long as they know that you're there, then it's just finding that common ground with them. And not everyone's the same, so it's going to take longer with some people.
Are there things that folks sometimes get wrong when they're trying to tap into these relationships, or what does that look like, and what has been your experience there?
You had just mentioned sugarcoating things, not being honest just to get someone in the door. I mean, that's going to make your reputation bad. You lose integrity, you lose trust. I mean, that would be the worst thing, just not being flat out honest with people. The good, the bad, and the ugly.
Now, Erin, kind of completely off of anything that we've talked about here today. I know I did an episode a couple episodes ago, and we were talking about this information overload and this idea of information overload, and the fact that drivers are still getting bombarded with all of this information from safety videos, from dispatchers, from everybody that they work with on a professional level, and it's all coming to them all at once. So when you're trying to build these relationships and you're trying to make sure that they're meaningful, how is it that you stand out from all of that other information that's coming into them? How is it that you make sure that they're still feeling connected and not just bombarded and overwhelmed? Or if you have that driver that you're noticing just is not responding to you on a regular basis, isn't taking the hit on those messages, isn't sending you something back with those texts, how is it that you bridge that gap? That way they still feel like they're connected and they still feel like you're seeing them, even in this world where everything's coming at them all at once.
Constant communication without bugging them. Some people, you got to find their sleep schedules, and, not everyone's going to be awake 9 to 5, 8 to 5. Just kind of being a little bug in their ear. So, people come back a month later, they're like, oh, we just had something happen. But they had so many messages from me that they knew they could just search that and they found it. And then they'll reach back out. It just happened last week. So it's just being the little bug in the ear without being obnoxious or annoying. And don't make them feel bad about if it does take them longer to get back, because everyone's busy. Everyone has families. Everyone has things going on. They've got other things to deal with than just a little message from me.
Love the fact that you're hitting on that integral part of go and find out what their schedule is. Go and find out what their sleep schedule looks like. Try to figure out what that is for each driver, because I feel like that takes that personal connection just one step further. Because so often within our industry, we do expect drivers to answer at our beck and call just because we're in the office from 9 to 5. Well, why are they not responding at that point in time? So being able to really bridge that gap by saying, okay, but wait a minute, there's got to be a reason for this. There's got to be a reason that they're not responding at this point in time, or that they've gone quiet. Maybe it is because I'm just contacting them when they're trying to sleep and they don't want to answer the phone because they're trying to get that sleep so they can get back out on the road and be safe. So being able to really dig in deep and realize that, hey, maybe that's where I need to be paying more attention.
And then you have to know sometimes you have to reach out to them at 7 o'clock at night. And that's just how it is. Or if it's a weekend person because they're running so hard during the week, it's just making the time for them to be available to them.
Absolutely. Now, Erin, we're going to close this one up with some rapid fire questions. So I want you to answer with the first thing that comes to mind. What's one piece of relationship advice that you wish you had gotten earlier in your career?
I think just having the honesty portion drilled home and relationships. We're not out here doing some crazy executive work. We're putting butts in seats. We're making people money. This is a really good thing we're doing. And build the relationships and keep them going. And you're going to have no's, and that's fine. But don't let the no's get you down. A no today is not a no tomorrow, every day. So that was super helpful for me.
For sure. Taking those no's with grace, because anytime that you get a no, it's an automatic rejection. And so feeling that out, taking those no's with grace, that's big. What's a sign that a professional relationship isn't going to be healthy?
If they're not open and honest in communicating with you, or if they just won't communicate with you. Sometimes it's just like we were talking about with the drivers, you got to find that person's sweet spot. When their timing is, they don't want to be bothered all the time. So maybe you check in again once a week, once a month. You wait for them to come to you. Sometimes you think it's going to be unhealthy, and it's just you haven't found that connection yet.
Absolutely. Now, following up on that, when you're trying to build that connection and you're realizing that you haven't found that connection yet, or maybe it is something where you're seeing these red flags where the driver's just not connecting back, or they're kind of shutting you down, at what point do you feel like it's time to just step away from it and call that relationship kind of done?
It's tough. I usually use the 3-strike rule. So I get shut down a couple times. Someone strings me along a little bit. There's 3 strikes and they're out. But in a month, they'll probably get another message, another phone call, something. Just checking in again, not letting them go for good.
Just because you don't like me this week doesn't mean that you're not going to like me next month.
Exactly.
I hear it.
Exactly.
I hear it. And Erin, if someone walks away from this conversation with just one thing that they've remembered, what should it be?
Do what you say you're going to do. I mean, it's in personal life, professional life, everything you do. It just makes everything so much easier.
Erin, before we wrap all of this up, we'd like to end this with something that's called the now difference. It's a little something that sets HandledNow apart. The way that we show up for people, the values we stand on, and the mindset that we bring to this work every day. So with that in mind, from where you sit, what does it look like to truly empower a driver? Not just with opportunities, but with real support that says, hey, we've got your back, and we're going to continue to have your back as long as you're continuing to be in communication with us, whether you're working with us or not.
I would say it's going to come back to a lot of communication. We're in a unique place as the staffing world that we're the middleman. So instead of them going, and they may not have the best approach with a client, so being able to be the voice for them and just help them, and then even coach them along, so when they do hopefully get hired with that client or any other client, that maybe that helps them along in the future. Like, you don't just go in guns blazing and screaming at everybody. Scream at me first. Get it out to me. I'll take it to someone else. No reason to scream at anyone in the office. They don't need that. Trying to help them for in the future, that if they don't have a middleman, that they know when to take that extra breath. Instead of talking to me, go scream to yourself in the truck.
That's really profound, because not only is it that you are acting as that buffer in the moment, but you're also giving them those tools in order to cope with those situations and in order to deconstruct those situations, those same frustrating situations in the future, and make sure that they're not putting themselves or their job in jeopardy whenever they go in because they're mad because something didn't go their way. Because as we know in the transportation industry, something's going to go awry every single day, which can be crazy frustrating.
Sometimes on the hour.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. Erin, for any of our listeners out there who would like to connect with you, where is it that they can find you?
I am on LinkedIn. You can always get my email, ecrawford@handlednow.com.
I would say, Erin, they can always find you if they call the HandledNow direct number at 866-217-5620, and you can fill them in on all of the 411 on any of the positions that we currently have open.
Absolutely.
For sure. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to come on today. We really do appreciate it. And I love having the ability to have you on the podcast, not just be working with you side by side on the day-to-day things. So I do really appreciate you taking the time to come on, and hopefully we can have you on again at some point in time in the future.
That'd be fantastic. Thank you all so much for having me.
Okay, guys, that's a wrap for this episode of Drive. Erin, thanks again so much for sharing your perspective and for everything that you do behind the scenes at HandledNow to make this work better for drivers every single day. If you've ever wondered who's on the other side of the phone or behind the email, people just like Erin are the heart of it. They care, they show up, and they're part of why HandledNow isn't just another staffing company. It's a place where people actually want to work with you. If this episode spoke to you, hit follow, send it to a friend, or come hang out with us on LinkedIn. Let's keep this conversation going. HandledNow is here for the long haul, and that starts with the way that we treat our people. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Drive. For more from HandledNow, head to handlednow.com and sign up for our newsletter. You can also join us on our Facebook group called The Driver's Seat and follow us on LinkedIn. Don't forget to subscribe wherever it is that you get